Hey, it's Conrad the More. Hey, it's Conrad the Mortgage Guy, and we are live at myworldpod.com. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer, the greatest professional wrestler of all time, your friend and mine, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Oh, Connie, you looking just so fine and beautiful on My World recording day. We're live on YouTube. Subscribe and hit the bell on myworldpod.com. But Connie, life is good. September is here. I won't get into it. I put a post out. We're not gonna go there. There's no upside. There's no reason at all to discuss the post you put up. The issue is dead. It's gone. It's over with. There are people in this world. You may be one of them. I'm not sure, but there may be some folks out there very, very sensitive to the subject.
Wait, Jeff, what are you talking about, bud?
At the end of the day, bud, Conrad, it's as simple. We're not going to bring up the Cracker Barrel controversy. Cracker Barrel was literally founded.
Oh my!
Literally right across the lake from me. You know, as the crow flies, we're talking less than 10 miles. You know, by if you have to drive around the lake, it's I don't know, a few minutes. But Conrad, I know that hurt you. The Silva, if you don't mind, can you put that post back up there, because I just thought it was real cool. How, you are such a tried and true Alabama fan. You threw the coaches up there as kind of window dressing. I didn't read anything into that, and you put Herschel, that is the gentleman in the rocking chair. And that's, I get it. Saban's the old coach, and that is a logo that produced nothing but great results through the years, and salt of the earth, did things right. Very productive, and just the feel good. I guess a lot like Nick Saban. He won championships through and through, and now you got the new updated logo. It's new. It's 2025. There's a lot of pizzazz around it. And look, you can take it either way, but I don't want to touch that. All I'm worried about is going in and eating steak and eggs, and I like the grits with it and the hot biscuits, and maybe if I'm going to splurge that day and do a cheat day, I'll grab me a pancake. But Conrad, we are not going to talk about Cracker Barrel, but we are going to talk about a little college football. I wish I had some hockey play.
What are you doing right now? We're doing a wrestling podcast. We're supposed to be talking about professional wrestling.
Basketball school, right? Alabama is a basketball. I know that, Conrad.
It's well known.
It for years, right?
It's been it's been established. Well, I'm curious, Jeff, where are you going with this? Because, I don't think the official rankings are out yet, but I've even seen it be suggested.
Okay.
That Alabama is going to be ranked 14 and that Tennessee will be unranked today. So what exactly are you bragging about? Is this one of those?
Well, at least Tennessee didn't lose. We can't celebrate ever winning anything, but we can certainly slack off on a team that stumbled. We only get joy when Alabama loses, not because we ever win shit. Yay, Tennessee!
Listen, let's get serious here for a moment, Conrad, because I feel your pain. We're not going to bring up Chris Park. We're not going to bring up Abyss and his losing ways. He's a disastrous. I'm not going to get into his maybe the worst fantasy football draft that I've ever laid eyes on in my 20 plus years of playing. But Conrad, let me ask you a serious question. You moved houses in the last 12 months. You lived up on the hill in Huntsville, and you moved out to the water in Guntersville. That's a fair statement, right?
Well, it was about 18 months ago, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. So your father's name's Larry, right? Mom's Deborah. And I'm
in a deposition right now. I thought we were talking about wrestling. I just
want to say that they aren't just good people, but they've become good friends. And they have told me through, our relationship that one of your favorite artists is Daniel Moore. Are you familiar with Daniel Moore? I think you are. Well, folks, let me just tell you who Daniel Moore is. Alabama is a very storied Well, I'll be darned, you did find a football picture. I know it's a basketball school, but he's an incredible artist that, man, magical moments throughout history in the Alabama football program or basketball program, Daniel Catton. And I would be it'd be safe to say that throughout the entire state of Alabama, I'm talking about Plum Nair down to Flobama, which is the Florida-Alabama line, all the way up here to Ardmore, the Tennessee line, and probably on the Georgia side and the Mississippi side and everything in between. There's Daniel Moore prints and paintings all over the place. So to commemorate this fine occasion, now I think Daniel's moved on. I don't know if it's, out to Texas or maybe Ohio State or maybe just north up to Rocky Top, Knoxville. It's official. You'll see it. He put it out. It's a blurb, entertainment news. It'll be on your local news today. He's moved on. But you know what? Double J's here to rescue. I want to commemorate this past weekend's kickoff to 2025 college football. And the way I'm going to do that is because I've learned this from you. People, you've got to engage them, know, like, and trust, and just all those kind of good feelings. So we're going to invite the My World listeners, and I am going to give away. I'm going to jump the gun. Next year is my 40th year, and I got all kind of Don West grab bags and My World specials, and I've got photos, but I'm going to put together a special package. I'm probably going to give, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do 10 8x10s signed by the Last Outlaw, 10 of them to the winner. And I know, and so, I know folks in Alabama like to, get engaged and really, I don't know, just create their own. And so I like engagement here on My World. So Silva, if you don't mind, we got a little surprise for Connie today. If you'll throw up the contest, because here is what I want. The coloring contest. That's right, folks.
No.
On My World, we got a guy, the Alabama fan, doing the number one salute. You can
Silva. Take it off. This isn't funny.
Just go to My World socials and you'll see it. Print it down. I want you to color it in real good. And there it is. The final. Alabama 17, Florida State 31. The fan that the camera zoomed in on, boy, oh boy, talk about a sore loser. But to email, we're going to give you an opportunity to email your entry, gfwwrestling@gmail.com. That's right, GFW Wrestling. Folks, just go to our socials. If you're watching on My World right now, we will blast all this out. It is for Conrad Thompson. And the winner, I've already talked to the folks, the winning contest that I picked, not only going to get 8x10s, but I'm also going to frame this, and I will personally hang this in Conrad's house. That's simple. What do you think, Connie? I said we weren't going to talk about Cracker Barrel. We're not.
This is bullshit. What are we even doing?
Oh, Conrad's got his new bag of tricks down there. Conrad, it was a tough loss. Florida State. Jesus, they're freaking terrible last year. What the hell is going on?
2-10.
Yep, Coach Rosie, he chimed in. He's in. Come on, Coach. Download the photo, download the print, get your maybe have your classroom. There it is. Conrad for new Alabama coach. All the comments are just churning right in. Connie, Clyde. Connie, they love this idea. It's listener engagement. It is truly throwing a tribute to the football season, and it's all for you. Folks, if you like Conrad Thompson, if you have listened to one of his pods, just not Jeff's pod, maybe it's, I don't know, something to wrestle with Bruce or JBL or whatever happened, win with Shivani, 83 weeks, EB, Ross Report, JR. The list goes on and on. The contributions you've made, this is the very least we could do, especially for you. So, Conrad, happy My World Day. I know we've kicked things off in a fantastic way. I'm not going to talk about Tennessee kicking ass. I'm not going to talk about Belichick getting taken to the woodshed. We're not going to talk about any other football. We just want people to have a little fun. The Alabama fan who was putting up the number one salute. All right, Conrad, this is a wrestling podcast. There it is, Coach Keith Morrison. I'm in anything for my brother Conrad. Connie, they love you. They absolutely, they love you.
You see stupid ass Ty Clyde, who's with us here live. He wants to know,
Where do I get a link to print it? Oh, I need to print it so I can color.
it's a bunch of bullshit. That's what it is. So, Jeff, tell him.
Where can I get a link to print it? Is it on your social? Where should I follow you, Jeff? This is stupid.
At Real Jeff Jarrett, at My World Pod on Instagram, X, Facebook. You just go there. How quick can we get this up? I know we tried to put all this together.
We're not doing it. We're not going to.
We are.
We don't need it. It's unnecessary. Let's just move on.
Jack Gaffney, who performed worse on Saturday, Arch Manning or Bama? Are you kidding me? That's even a question. Bama, the most humiliating. I think there's a stat out there. Saban lost what, 4 times? I mean, this guy's
Saban, lost his entire tenure.
Yes. What is
lost to as many unranked teams as Kalen DeBoer has at Alabama already. 17 years, and he lost to the same number of Kalen DeBoer in his last 10 games is 5-5. But here's the best part about this: he's got a $70 million buyout.
You got to be kidding me!
7-0, buddy. We can't afford to pay our players like everybody else can. You think now we got $70 million for walk away money?
Oh my.
The big boosters are saying they're getting girls in their rooms at 2 a.m. and DoorDash at 1:30 a.m. This is the night before game day. Can't get on the same page about when the bus is leaving to go to the stadium. Like, somebody's trying to get that $70 million go away check. Can you imagine if that was in wrestling? Can you imagine if one day in 1999 Vince said, "How about I just give you all your money and you just go home"? I mean, would you have argued at all?
Vince, don't you dare do that to me. Are you?
How dare you give me all the money? Nothing in return.
Like today?
Yeah.
I tell you what, Vince, you don't even got to fly me home. I'll go buy my own airfare.
You'd buy your own jet for $70 million. My God.
Good Lord.
Can we
be happy, Connie? We got a lot to talk about. We're going to have fun, man. I'm in a great mood. Labor Day weekend, and boy, oh boy, I got way deep into the Double J gear stuff. And
well, hang on. Before you do all that, we got to talk. Let's put a button on football for a second.
Okay. All right.
Have you heard all the chatter about what Bill Belichick is going to do in college football?
Oh, no.
Not much. He got blown out last night.
Yeah.
See that?
I turned it off and went to bed. Hey,
that was about as one-sided as it gets. How about Kirk Herbstreit having a hot mic coming back from break going, "Oh, they're so bad."
Oh, no, he didn't.
Yes, it was fantastic.
I loved it in the family group text with daughters and boyfriends and all that. We were, and I'm pulling for him. I'd love to see him win. And they scored the touchdown, and they showed the girlfriend. I said, "Oh, there's a little Taylor Swift, a mini Taylor Swift, because like when Travis or the Chiefs, they get a little shot. They had to get a shot. You got Michael Jordan, Lawrence Taylor, a who's who list of A-list athletes / celebrities, and the girlfriend got a shot."
Well, you got a shot this weekend. Game on. Week 1 in the NFL starts now, and every touchdown brings you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. This isn't just football. It's first touchdown fireworks, anytime touchdown rushes, live bets from every momentum shift. At DraftKings, every play is your next shot to win. I'm a big fan of DraftKings. I had a lot of fun last year on DraftKings. Didn't you, Jeff?
Oh, are you kidding me? It is amazing. It kind of ups the ante on all ball watching. So a lot of fun. Yes, I did. Conrad.
And new customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Plus grab over $200 off NFL Sunday ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Your season starts now. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code MyWorld. That's code MyWorld to get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first bet of $5 or more, plus over $200 off the NFL Sunday ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccp.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday ticket teams at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday ticket/terms. Limited time offer. Go do it right now, boys and girls. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use that promo code MyWorld at just $5 and get 300 in bonus bets instantly, plus over $200 off NFL Sunday ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Is this like the best time of the year, Jeff? I mean, college football's back and a week later the NFL's back. If you're a wrestling fan and you're a college football fan and an NFL fan, and we're right around the corner from the NBA starting, this is a great time for sports, don't you think?
Yeah, you know, the doldrums, it is. Use promo code MyWorld. It is, Conrad. Football, it's such a TV friendly, but all around the world, this is the time of year that I guess the viewing cranks up as of old. So, yes, promo code MyWorld, Connie.
I'm fired up for my world. I'm fired up for today's show as well. We appreciate you guys joining us live. I know normally we drop early on a Tuesday morning. We usually record on a Monday, but we had the big holiday, and I know you took some time to get some things organized. Jeff, you've got a big event coming up. Jeff Jarrett's All-Star Super Slam. It's happening next month, October 23rd. And tickets are available now at ProWrestlingTix.com. That's ProWrestlingTix.com. And you got like a who's who here. I see QT Marshall's going to be there, Satnam Singh, the Queen, Jay Lethal. This is going to be pretty cool. I actually had the privilege of seeing Brady Booker and Elijah Drago a few weeks ago at 1FW with QT Marshall. And now this is like in your hometown of Hendersonville. How many matches have you had in Hendersonville in your life, Jeff?
Well, Conrad, that's kind of the whole story of it, where people around town, they literally, several folks like, yeah, are you really going to wrestle? And going back to, you know, my dad moved to Hendersonville in 1972, Conrad, and he just kind of had it in his mind. And look, he ran every armory and high school gym and fundraiser from 100 miles north of Louisville to Jackson, Mississippi, and all points in between. But he never wanted to run here, and so I just kind of took that and went with it. So this will be the first time in my entire career, Connie, I'm actually wrestling.
Wow.
Yep. Years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago, coming out of COVID, Pig Fest was kind of created. One of our biggest fundraisers in town was they parked all the tour buses where kids could go on the tour buses and you raise money. And it was kind of like, I don't know, trick or treat, but during the Christmas season between Halloween and Christmas. Well, COVID kind of shut that down. And so they pivoted to Pig Fest, if you will. And then they added music a few years ago. And they approached me, 7 or 8 months ago and said, hey, Jeff, we're not going to ask you. We're going to tell you. We want a wrestling show. And we kind of went through it. And I'm like, okay, let me figure this out. I was a little reluctant, but they just kept kind of doing different things. And they got great nonprofits. 4 different nonprofits are involved, and the title sponsors Dude Wipes, and there's more sponsors coming, and that's pretty cool. And I said, hey, what the heck? What do you want to call this? Is it Pigfest Wrestling? And Parks Department, Andy Gilly, he's like, hey man, we want to call it Jeff Jarrett something. And so we just kicked around a bunch of names. So yes, first time in my 40-year career. And we couldn't have a show without a little nod to my old man. We got a concession stand brawl on it, Connie. We got a little Micromania. Eric Young, who is local, James Storm, who is local. So we've got all kinds of local flair, if you will, on it. We've got Alex Taylor, and we got by specific request of multiple folks in the city Parks Department, Ricky Morton, Hall of Famer, is going to be here. So it is, to me, it's a loaded independent show and very, very cool. VIP's already sold out. Tickets are going very, very fast. So it's going to be very cool. Thursday night, October the 23rd, Jeff Jarrett's All-Star Super Slam.
Man, I can't believe it. ProWrestlingTix.com is where you can pick up your tickets. I'm gonna be there. I don't know if I can get Silva there, but I'm gonna be there. I want to see this. I mean, your first time wrestling in your hometown. How fun will that be?
I want Cassio to come up. He's going to take a nice slap to the face. We've got something for Cassio. I may put him in the concession stand brawl, but no, Connie, you better be here, pal.
Yeah, I'm not going to miss it. Go Blank plans to hang out with me and Jeff. ProWrestlingTix.com is where you can hook that up. We also need to mention, hey man, I'm scrolling social media last week and you're all over TMZ and you're in your same setup that I see now. And I'm thinking, I don't remember us talking about that. How did your TMZ discussion about Taylor Swift come to be?
You know, those guys, little backstory. And so, you know, I don't know. I've A, super busy, and B, you know, TMZ by design creates news and sensationalizes things. And I get it. They, when you think about what Harvey Levin has done through the years, it's amazing the business he's built. They reached out to me of Toby's passing, and I just wasn't in the right kind of headspace. And a couple of times they've reached out, and not by any, like, I'm not going to do it, just by schedule, or my head wasn't into it. And they said, hey man, we can have some fun with this. You know, Taylor, getting engaged, and I am serious. You know, Scott and Andrea, her parents, I'm very happy for them, just because, you know, the human side, you know, she's, gosh, it's still kind of hard for me to wrap my head around it, Connie. She's the biggest pop star in the world. When you can sell out 7 or 8 or 9 Wembley Stadium, you know, obviously that's not in America. I mean, just it's kind of incredible, the career and her strategic moves. I know, Conrad, you may not be the biggest Taylor Swift fan, but you're a fan of marketing and moving and how to make the most news out of everything, and the little Easter eggs and her albums and the Super Bowl situation that everybody's already churning about. So I said, yeah, I'll do it. So Steve Goldberg, good dude, very, very good dude, good at what he does. He reached out and he said, man, just give me a few minutes and we'll have some fun with it. So that's what we did. We talked about the nuptials, if you will. I'm ready for Taylor to have kids. So Scott and Andrea, her mom and dad, I think they'd be great grandparents.
Well, there's no doubt about that. We got to keep our eyes peeled for the next time you're going to pop up talking all things Taylor Swift. I do want to mention Ty Claude, who is an independent wrestler who's with us here live. We love busting his balls every now and again. He says, what does Jeff recommend to do to get noticed for the next Jeff Jarrett show? Good luck, Jeff. Hey, that's interesting. Do you, we know that you promote, you know, a little bit here and there. It's not something that you're doing every week or anything, but how does someone get on your radar?
So in Conrad, I don't know if this was how recent it was, but I think it was, I don't know if it's a text exchange. I'm not sure, but if it was with you or whatever it may be, but, and this happened, Connie, don't back me in a corner here and there. I know you're not, but here's the long and short of it. If I announce an event or a show and then I've getting asked, then it's like, oh, that's kind of reacting. I think that at the end of the day, be proactive. And Todd, I really appreciate you specifically asking, hey man, what do I need to do to get recommended? And I think the very bottom line of that is when preparation meets opportunity, then you're going to be described as, oh, what a lucky guy. So by preparing, and I say by preparing, learn your in-ring skills, learn your promo skills, up your social media game, get better and better and better. And I'm not just saying, but like literally, with all the resources that you have at your hand, the TikTok, Instagram, all the Chat GPT now, like figure out how to create engagement. You have to look at yourself as a brand, as a entity. And so with that being said, it's creating awareness about who Ty Clyde is or whoever it may be. Don't wait for Jeff or any other promoter to hey, I'm running a show. If I'm running a show, I've already got the card booked if I'm going to make an announcement. Now, there's here and there some things, holes you got to fill in and all that. But what I'm saying is be proactive. Get noticed before events are put together. So when people are putting events together, then you go, hey, hey, this guy, I've seen him on social media, or this guy, all this. So I just think there's so much more, especially in today's professional wrestling environment. I was just in AML wrestling, geez, time for just 2 days, Sunday afternoon. I went over and we did a show and meet and greet from 1:30 to 3:30, and the show started at 4. And I mean, it was a full house at a high school in Salisbury, North Carolina, on a Sunday afternoon. And it really just incentivizes me continually that the business is hot, that talent has an opportunity to get noticed, develop their career in so many ways. So Todd, well, I guess what I'm saying is continually prepare yourself, learn, and you got to work at it, get as many reps as you can. If you're getting into the business and already trying to demand certain things here and there, it ain't going to work. So get in it long before the fame or fortune. Do it because you love it, but learn the business inside and out, not just in the ring, outside the ring. And a part of that is social media exists. And I've said this, and I know I sound like a broken record sometimes, but back in the day, we had 3 to 5 minutes on Memphis TV in the morning, then Raw, 7 or 8 minutes. You just didn't have any times to have touch points. With social media today, there's zero excuse for you not to build a brand. It's just that simple. So build it, trial and error. When you put stuff out, learn to read engagement, really study what's working, what's not working, and build on successes. Does that make sense, Connie?
Jeff, it does, but it is kind of broad stroke. I want to drill down just a minute because I think this is an interesting topic. I had a conversation with an independent wrestler that I know you and I both know and think a lot of. And he said, the way he sort of broke down whether or not you make it, it's going to be a big portion of that is going to be who's willing to vouch for you. It becomes, the old cliche of not necessarily what you know, but who you know. Yeah. So networking is certainly important, and that's a big piece of it as far as people who may be able to advocate on your behalf. But then, of course, you've got to be able to promote, which is clearly what you're talking about. How do you court interest from strangers and make them want to open their wallet and spend money to see you? And then you've got the in-ring and you've got, the promos, and maybe the promo can be part of that attracting attention piece. But, you've referenced social media a few times. I guess I want to ask, if you were not debuting in 1986 or whatever it was, and you were debuting in 2025 and really trying to make a splash. I know you say, social media exists. Are you saying that you would use that to develop your character, to develop feuds and angles? Would you recommend hiring a videographer or getting good at video editing yourself? Is it important to learn graphics? I'm saying with a 2025 mentality, not a 1985 mentality, because I know, and I'm not saying you did this. Most guys just say, "Oh, just keep at it." And you're saying that, but you're saying leverage social media. Can you expand on how you would approach that if you were starting your career in 2025?
That is really good, Connie.
Like, would you hire a videographer? Is that necessary? Or do you think you can shoot it yourself and just learn to get better with that skill? Because when you're talking about learning the business outside of the ring, do you mean like video and graphics and just the presentation?
Yeah. So my head's kind of spinning around in a couple of different ways because of AI and the technology that exists. Conrad, I'm not a Excel whiz at all, but I took a bunch of numbers that I had. I don't say I used to have it on Scratchpad, but in my notes in my notes. Anyway, I typed it all up, Conrad, and inputted it in ChatGPT, and I said, turn this into an Excel spreadsheet. And I said, I want to highlight the expenses in blue and all this kind of stuff. All this, it gave me a finalized document that, I kid you not, it is exactly, because I learned from my accountant, this is exactly a finished document. It's a complete report and turned in. So I'm just saying, the tools that we now have in the toolbox, Karen messes around with TikTok filters, and Cody does Instagram. I went and played ball with him yesterday, and he posted something with a filter on, all this kind of stuff. The thing that I'm circling back to, you've got to be able to, and you can get a tripod and shoot yourself, but I would be a one-stop shop and learn everything you possibly can about producing, editing, getting it all, and all the chat GPTs, Gemini, and all that kind of stuff can do so much work. But that's just a slice of it. I think you got to figure out also too that And there's, and I don't want to just say X or Snapchat or Instagram or TikTok, because there's Reddit. There's all kinds of things that you can engage in the wrestling space. And I think that is most important, that at the end of the day, Conrad, it's different, but it's not. On Saturday mornings when I broke in, wrestling fans were watching the wrestling show, obviously. And so I was communicating with them whether I knew it or not. Well,
Right.
today you absolutely are communicating if you can get to wrestling, if you're booked on shows. And I mean, they have student showcase shows and, all around the country when you get involved in a wrestling school. And so get involved in a wrestling school, and then you've got to get to these shows. But I go back to the Taylor Swift story. People don't really realize how that, and I call her little girl at the time, she knocked on all kinds of doors, and Borchetta obviously answered her and all that. But she will tell people to this day that on MySpace is how people don't even know what MySpace is. Well, it was the precursor, I guess you could say, to Facebook. But she responded to every fan she could long before she had Tim McGraw song, any of her hits. She accumulated her audience one at a time with authenticity. So I think you have to really figure out, what am I doing here? Well, what are you doing here? You're going to emotionally engage with folks. Now, how am I going to do that? I think there's multiple means. I think there's you just got to understand your fan base and create every kind of touch point you can. I mean, Conrad, Sunday at AML, when I'm sitting there, and shout out Tracy Myers and Brian Hawks, they've got a roster of talent, and I'll call them AML. They're me and Cardona, and I'll probably miss somebody else, but we were the fly-ins, if you will. The rest of the show were talent that this audience knows, and they've obviously done a good job because they do social pieces and backstage, all that. But you've got to create that character, and that's where it's easier said than done, in that the authenticity's got to come in, and then and I'll call it the antagonist and protagonist. Be authentic about it, but build a fan base. Conrad, I guess is what I'm trying to say, not clearly, but you got to understand that you got to do it all. I mean, you got to learn how to work in the ring. You got to know how to cut a promo. You either have a videographer or learn to edit, put it together, and do different pieces. Then you've got to network with promoters. You've got to understand. And that's the other thing, that, we all got to eat and pay our bills. So this starts out as not even a side job, as a damn hobby, because you're not going to be making enough money, but you got to kind of just grind and grind and grind. And on top of that, I look at a lot of folks today, and I just think, damn, if you would just get in the gym a little bit, you will stand out, because we are in a business that it is so visual.
It's a cosmetic industry.
Oh my gosh. And I think so many people so many talent completely miss that this day and age, that it's incredibly important, because then people will go, oh man, I want to go watch this guy. You just get a huge step out of the gate in this day and age. So there's a lot there. I know I know I'm going around and around and around.
No, I think it was great. I do want to ask, though, because you're talking about building a fan base, and I appreciate when you give the context of like everything that Taylor Swift was doing. But in the confines of wrestling, there is a deviation there, because Taylor Swift, I know this sounds silly, Taylor Swift is a babyface to her fans. She doesn't play a bad character. So I'm wondering, if you were a heel character on the independents, how can you cater to fans that way? Or do you reply and still try to be active, but with your hate? Like, I'm just curious. Like, I understand how to be a baby face and how to court attention that way and rally your fans and be nice to them, and then they'll like you. I mean, people want to support those people who, hey, if you like me, I like you. Mirroring is a real thing. So I get that. But if you're a heel, does your advice change at all?
Okay. You almost went the next deepest layer here, Conrad. And the reason I say that is Jarrett didn't do it. Vince McMahon didn't do it. Eric Bischoff didn't do it. / Vince and Dutch and whatever it may be. You turned me babyface because we did this podcast and you go, oh, that's Jeff. I hated that bastard for years. So Conrad, and I'm going to say this with as much all due respect as you can, as I can, because it is a complicated matter, but mixed messaging will kill you. If you want to make it in this business as a heel, you got to go all in, because social media, and I don't want to say it's not real, but it is another outlet. It is the outlet. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's not another outlet. It is the outlet to peddle your wares and create interest and engagement. So I think the short answer is, with authenticity and a degree of common sense, you absolutely have to lean into the heel persona, but not in, I mean, that's where it gets into, I don't say a case by case basis, but let's have some common sense here. But you gotta have to kind of learn, how do I say this, Conrad? You're going to have to learn who you, well, and that's where it gets really complicated, because until a talent understands who they are, it's hard to portray that to the world. So you have to understand, what is my character? What is my character flaw? All the fantastic heel personas through the years, there are shreds of it that the world really likes, but man, oh man, there are shreds that you absolutely despise. And if you channel that inner one, that's how you make a lot of money. So you've got to be true to your character, Conrad, because at the end of the day, social media is not the real world. I know you know that, but I'm just, you can't serve two masters. You can't say, oh no, that's the real Jeff, and oh, here's the last outlaw over here. That doesn't really work.
I know you and I had a conversation that was offline recently, but it was about, and I think your buddy across the pond, when you were doing My World over there, I think it may have been actually his pointing it out to you about the way the internet wrestling community and the wrestling fans at large felt about you when you launched Global Force Wrestling versus the love that you've enjoyed now. And I think some of that is because you never sort of policed the narrative or combated the narrative that you were a bad guy, that you were a heel. Like, that was good for your business until it wasn't. So I appreciate when you said, hey, mixed messaging, you'll lose them. Like, you and I know that MJF stays in character all the time in his public appearances and on social. And before him, JBL did that. Like, JBL, I still think, has probably more people blocked in the wrestling universe than anybody else. Like, he's got like more than 10,000 people blocked or something crazy, some absurd number where you're like, oh my gosh. So he's clearly taken that and gone full tilt with it. But now I'm wondering, does he accidentally alienate some of his potential listeners to his podcast now? Because those people are like, man, fuck that guy. He blocked me. I'm not going to listen anymore. That sort of thing. Or I'm never going to listen. I'm never even going to give him the shot because I've decided that I don't like him. And I think that was a battle that we tried to overcome here, because when we first announced we were doing a Double J podcast, there was a bunch of people who said the same thing about Bruce. Oh, who would ever want to hear Brother Love? I don't care anything about Brother Love. It's just Stone Cold's podcast for me. Okay, thanks. And then they heard Bruce Pritchard and they were like, oh, I was wrong. I think people kind of came to the same epiphany for you and for John and Tony Schiavone. I mean, the rap was he's bitter and jaded and he hates wrestling and blah, blah, blah. Now, Tony's a different example because he never necessarily played a heel on TV, but I think I could see how it could still be confusing, because if I'm a heel and I want everybody to hate me, doesn't that mean, because I've always heard, hey, cool heels kill the business. You want a hateable heel. Hateable heels don't have merch. So that would just mean that you're like a grump on social all the time, right? Or are you saying just create grumpy content?
I think that's kind of where I was going with. Who's your favorite heel of all time, Conrad? Or I'm just trying to think of.
Well, let's take Ravishing Rick Rude. He was a good heel. The $1 Million Man, he was a good heel. Mr. Perfect, he was a good heel. I'm trying to think of guys who were more synonymous with a heel persona, if you will. By the way, while you're thinking about that, Andrew Dice Clay, one of our favorite follows on Twitter, says, when Global Force Wrestling launched, Jeff predicted a new boom period in the next year or two, and everyone to a man buried him and laughed at him for it. And guess who was right?
Attaboy, Ian.
Yeah, you did it. So I'm asking you now. Shout out to Efren. I appreciate him supporting the show.
Yes, sir, Efren.
What do you think, Jeff?
Give me what's your question? Because I was
Well, I'm just you said name a heel, and I said Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, $1 Million Man.
Here's where I guess maybe that kind of got me off kilter because they played such a Mr. Perfect. There was there was no redeeming qualities. Like I guess in my brain immediately went to I'll use a Lawler as a heel.
Yeah.
There were some things about Lawler that were very even honorable, but when it got down into you'll love this personal issues, he would take issue with his babyface on one or two different issues, and he's lying, and he's full of shit, and he's backstabbing, and he's out for his own good. And so you just kind of go, now wait a minute, Lawler. So it becomes a personal issue between Lawler and his opponent, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think more of a modern day. I mean, I think at times MJF, obviously, because there are some audiences that cheer for him in a kind of a yay, we're going to be entertained and fun, and I'll kind of say in a babyface, and then he'll kind of weave in different shreds of reality, and I think people start to bite on that. I'm trying to think of different examples. So I guess what I'm saying is you can be a charismatic character. I'm not saying a Jeff Hardy. I'm saying a charismatic, very entertaining, and you can have some likable qualities, but you need to figure out, and this is where I kind of always lean into it. I know sometimes it gets lost if I were to say heel and babyface, because it sounds so wrestling-y. That's where I like to kind of go into that protagonist and antagonist. That goes back to storytelling. When you are quote unquote percent, I'm talking about, I'm going back to Ty, and Ty, like, how do we create this character and this and that? I'm going to go into, you got to get your quote unquote character over, and then you need to have if you're an antagonist, you need to find out who is that baby face that you're going to go after. What don't you like about him that may be a redeeming quality? And this is where it kind of gets layer upon layer upon layer. But I think, Conrad, the big broad stroke here is that go get over as a young talent and become likable and become charismatic and become must-see social media and all that kind of stuff. And then when you get into a storyline, the situation will dictate itself. You were using the analogy that Taylor, wasn't a heel. Okay. If you kind of look at her progression, babyface, and got this huge fan base, there are different people that have come in and out of her career, and she'll write a bad song, about the boyfriend. The boyfriend immediately becomes the heel because Taylor's a big babyface. I think if Taylor and the Kanye West deal, I mean, he jumped on stage, that just kind of wrote itself. But hypothetically speaking, whoever a young up-and-comer country music star, if Taylor would have taken a dig at a young upcoming country music star, people would have said, well, that bitch, I can't believe she would say that, because then it becomes personal. I don't know if that's making sense, Conrad, but I don't think you can be a full-blown heel on social media until you have the context of who's the heel and who's the babyface, who's the protagonist, antagonist. What's the story here? Does that make sense? Because I get it. You ask maybe the perfect question is, hey, man, if I'm a heel persona, how do I do that? Do I antagonize with fans? And you can. But I think more importantly is go get over and get known, quote unquote, as this whatever your character may be, but figure out and punch up and find out who the top babyface. And so let's just call it independent wrestler XYZ who lives in Missouri, who's trying to get noticed. What would be wrong with him if he were to get on social media and say, today I'm going to talk about the top 10 reasons why I hate Adam Hangman Page?
Hey,
And
I
then
don't mean to cut you off, but one of the things that, I mean, we both know a guy who did this in AEW, and it's a guy you and I both think a lot of. I'm talking about Eddie Kingston, and I don't think he would be offended that we're talking about him in this way. He had been in the independents legit for decades and was thinking, hey, I'm going to have to sell my boots in order to pay rent. I mean, this is not working out. And at an independent show during the pandemic, when, people were socially distanced, Cody was doing the open challenge for the TNT title, and he just called him out, and it got a little traction online. And next thing you know, he walks out with a microphone talking trash to Cody Rhodes. And 1 week later, he was signed to AEW. So 20 years of him trying to get signed to a national company became a reality because he rolled the dice and did exactly what you just talked about taking a shot at a baby face. And it was a great promo, and it was real. And now Eddie Kingston is a beloved figure to millions of wrestling fans. But I don't know that it ever would have happened had he not done exactly what you just
it would have
described.
never happened. You got to get in. I say, hey man, you're over here on Highway 41 or bypass 109. That ain't going to work. You got to get in the 10-lane highway of George Washington Bridge, and then you got to stay on it. So if you don't have a storyline, figure out how you knock the tip-top baby faces in the industry today. And if you run out of all those, then go back in time. So I'm going to give you, 10 reasons Stone Cold sucks, or 10 reasons, whatever. Yeah. Man, Conrad, we really went in a rabbit hole today, pal.
No, it was good stuff. Steve Buchanan's with us here live, and he says true heels are a lost art in this day and age. People view heels differently. Heels would never be cheered back in the day. The perception in society has changed, and it started back with Austin. Dan Van Dam says Lawler was the ultimate troll in wrestling, and then you've got Big Show, who flip-flopped heel and face constantly. Ryan is actually chiming in and saying people finally smartened up and realized that Jeff is one of the truly legendary stars of his time and a hell of a good guy too. I don't know. His football taste ain't for shit. But thankfully, he knows how to keep smelling good, and that's with Mando. Mando is a fixture in the Thompson household and in the Double J household. Hey, listen, guys, fall's here, crisp air, football, maybe a bonfire too. But if you're like most guys, you're still putting in a hard day's work, and that means sweat. Well, don't let your body odor sideline you. Mando deodorant plus sweat control is for real working guys. It's formulated to stop odor before it even starts. It doesn't mask odor with overwhelming fragrance, so you can tackle anything from the job site to tailgating with confidence. Don't mask it, Mando it. We're talking clinical strength sweat control. One swipe and you're good to go. It's not your typical deodorant. This is clinical strength. It's at least twice as good at controlling sweat than the standard deodorant that you've used. And by the way, Mando controls both sweat and odor for 72 hours. You see, after just 12 hours, underarm sweat with Mando was reduced by 92%. I don't know how I can say it any plainer. This stuff works. Mando deodorant has been re-engineered to stop odor before it even starts. It doesn't just mask it, it prevents it. And 100% of study participants experienced all-day odor protection. That's worth repeating. You will have 92% less underarm sweat, and 100% of the participants experienced all-day odor protection. You can't find this anywhere else. What are you waiting for? You got to get this double protection. It's Mando's new deodorant plus sweat control solid stick. It gives you double the protection you need. No more worrying about sweat stains or those embarrassing pit rings, just all day freshness and dryness. And Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice. Plus you get free shipping. Now, right now is a special offer for our listeners. New customers can get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Just use the code MyWorld at shopmando.com and you'll get 20% off plus free shipping. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness. Are we going to start passing this out in independent locker rooms? I think before every match, a guy ought to just throw on some Mando.
I kid you not. I would love to talk Dave Green. Shout out. A lot of chatter, Dave. And I'm not kidding you. Independent wrestling sponsored by Mando would be a hell of a, because you can have a character I won't get into it, Conrad, but yes.
No, real deal. Let's just, I'm going to be gross here for a minute, but humor me. Shout out to Mando.
So yeah, could
The
we?
worst headlock you were in ever.
Yeah, I was going to say we could do a top 10 grundle loaders. Conrad, those red lights behind you are going to start flickering. They're going to start melting.
Is Vader on the list? Is Vader on it?
I need that. I need a machine voice. Hell yes.
I cannot wait for us to do that. By the way, we appreciate everybody being here live. I greatly appreciate your support. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications bell. We are, in fact, indeed live on YouTube. And speaking of live, last week you and I were live, and we were a little late getting going because I was trying to get things dialed up at the new studio. But we had a pretty heated conversation about what happened at a California Independent weekend before last. Of course, I'm talking about Raja Jackson and Stu Smith. You got a lot of feedback to that. I saw you sending me a lot of screen grabs where people were reaching out to you directly. What do you think of the conversation with the benefit of hindsight, and what was the reaction that you received?
Well, I don't even know where to start. And this, I feel like we recorded last week. I feel like that was a year ago. I mean, we did 2300 Arena. It feels like a lot's been going on in my life. Well, there is a lot going on. Conrad, when I tell you, people, that was a very, very, very divisive conversation. I'm glad that we can shake hands over it. But, Conrad, it really went right down to, and I'm pretty sure, just not knowing the whole story, the context, all this, but it immediately was like, hey, man, Conrad's right. Hey, man, Conrad, you saw some of those comments. I mean, there were some folks that were so, I don't want to say pissed off at me, but we're all 1,000% pro Conrad. And then there were others who were like, now, wait a minute. Conrad kind of snapped your head off for no reason. I said, well, look, the guy took liberties, and you just can't cover that up. It is, no matter if he's a wrestler, not a wrestler, drunk, not drunk, whatever it may be, after punch 2 or 3. And I think everybody agrees on that. It is all the context going into it and then coming out of it. And I know I'm assuming we're about to get into it. I am still amazed, and I know it's the world we live in. I've got 5 kids. The post incident, the responses of some folks just boggle my mind. Like, there is no upside. Social media is not a place to litigate anything. There's zero upside. And I just was like, and I'm not saying let it go, but just do not address it. You're never going to win there. Like, never. I don't care what's said. I truly mean that. I don't care if there's, and I say this, no matter how extreme the threats or how extreme the divisive comments or how ugly everything gets, it is just not worth addressing in the court of social media. Conrad, what's your thoughts? Where are you at today with the situation?
Well, there's a lot of moving parts. I wanted to give you and all of our listeners a bit of an update. It's come out on Stu's Facebook page that he was, well, I'll just read the statement. Stewart has been released from the hospital and is now home resting. He sustained a serious head injury and was unconscious upon arrival at the ER. His injuries include trauma to both the upper and lower jaws, a laceration to his upper lip, and a fracture to the maxillabone, which unfortunately resulted in the loss of several teeth. He has a long road of recovery ahead, but he remains in good spirits despite everything he's been through. We're deeply grateful for all the love and support we've received during this time. Thank you to everyone who's contributed in any way, whether through monetary donations, food, flowers, or gifts. Your kindness means more than words can express. From the bottom of my heart, thank you with love and respect, Contessa Patterson and Stuart Smith, aka Sicko Stu or Psycho Stu, whatever it is. So he's home, which is good. It does sound like he's going to have quite a recovery, with his jaws and that bone in his face and obviously the teeth, but financially, the GoFundMe was hugely successful. So hopefully that makes life a little easier to just maintain that recovery and pay some of those household bills and also the actual healing itself. Meanwhile, Rampage's camp has put a stamp out or a statement out. I guess it's really an Instagram post directly from Rampage, but he spilled the beans, and I want to get your response and how you feel about this now that you have the context of where Stu is today and what Rampage said over the weekend. This has gone too far. I'm sick of being quiet and letting all the low IQ people fall for clickbait. Yes, my son took things too far, and I'm pissed at him for being a piece of shit and the way he handled it. But if Psycho Stu wasn't drunk and wouldn't have hit my head over the head with a real beer can while he was live streaming on his own stream, then Knox wouldn't have felt like they had to make things right by letting Raja get his get back in the ring. If my son would have just went to the police when the beer can incident happened, then the whole event could have gotten shut down and he could have sued. But no, my son is not as smart as I'd like for him to be. Now my family and I are getting racist threats because of all the misinformation being posted, so content creators can get paid from views. People actually think my son snuck in a ring in front of a live audience and picked Psycho Stu up without permission to be there. Get smart, people. It was staged. But Raja took it too far. He only shook his hand and accepted Psycho Stu's drunken apology because they said he could get in on the storyline. He was told he could, quote unquote, fuck him up. I have witnesses that says this isn't the first time that Psycho Stu has done some drunk shit backstage to a fan. Now we have the backstory that my son attacked an innocent military vet with PTSD, like my son knew everything about the man that came up from behind him and hit him, then asked him to sell it. I have other kids to protect, and I don't take kindly to threats, and I'm not scared of prison or dying for my kids, and calling me names won't hurt my feelings. My son should face the consequences for going too far. He knows better. That's why he didn't tell me anything about the storyline. But Psycho Stu is lucky I wasn't there. Because when he hit my son over the head with a beer can the day after he got a concussion from sparring the day before, I wouldn't have cared if a bunch of pro wrestlers would have jumped me. I'm a father first. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Let's all learn a lesson. Keep your damn hands to yourself. If you get paid to do fake fighting, don't disrespect people that do the shit for real. Now I put myself in this shit. DM me now. So clearly he's at the end of his rope. He's struggling with all this. He's heard enough. He wants to set the record straight. He wants to defend his son. But I'm sure that message is hitting people different ways. How does it strike you?
Oh, Conrad.
Let me ask you this first of all, and I appreciate who I'm asking this to, but I don't know the answer, so I'm going to ask it. How common is it? Because I'm just a fan. I've never seen it. I don't know. How common is it that on independent wrestling shows, guys would have beers before matches?
I didn't see a drop of alcohol on Sunday. It's a case by case basis is what I would definitely say that, and look, I can speak from experience, you know, the old saying, nothing good ever happens after midnight. Nothing good ever happens. That's why, you know, even in TNA, hey man, do whatever you want off premises. Don't bring it on, don't bring it around. Just, you know, my dad had the same type mindset, and it was obviously a little different era, but guys would, you know, and many times is that ice up the cooler before you get to the show, but you don't crack open a beer until you are done performing and you're, you know, headed out the door. So having alcohol around dressing rooms is nothing really new. But drinking before you work as opposed to when you're done and headed away. But it you know, insurance and all those kind of things, I can hear it ringing in my old man's mind. So how common? I think that's kind of a loaded question, because I think it's on a case by case, promoter by promoter, basis. But you know, the thing.
Well, let me ask you this, so we're not implicating anybody. Let's pretend that this is GFW years ago. Y'all are going to do a baseball show. It's not going to be televised. You're not recording it. It's just a live event. it's quote unquote a paid show. Some of our listeners may know what I'm talking about there, but it's a less stressful day for the promoter financially.
Non-televised is the key term I think you're going with.
Yeah. So what was the best practice? Like, obviously in a perfect world, nobody drank beforehand, anything, but I'm sure some guys, the older legends, maybe, perhaps, I'm not sure how this goes. If they brought a 6-pack back there and you knew, hey, this guy has a high tolerance. I mean, I know it's a case by case basis, but I'm saying, I'm sure there's guys that you felt like, well, it's not a big deal if he does it because I know him. There's some familiarity. He's not going to be doing anything crazy versus some other guys. And I know that some of our listeners will even be upset by that perceived double standard, but there is a difference in the way guys work. Hey, this guy's going to be on top of something and flipping off and blah, blah, blah. And this other legend, man, if he takes one bump, that's one more than I thought he would take, sort of thing in wrestling.
I always in my mind had the rule, you drink after your match. There's zero, you just nothing beforehand, no matter what. And I, specific on the GFW shows, I was probably the biggest drink out of the whole crew that I booked.
Right.
Fact, as I would process it, I'm almost positive that. But and I can tell you, Jason or Karen or whoever I was traveling with, whatever, it was always after the show. I just think that's the best rule of thumb. But here's, I think that's the simple term. But I think where we're at today, anyway, I don't want to jump ahead, Conrad, because the Rampage statement, I didn't know all that in totality. I knew he'd made a statement. But let me ask you something that now, are we 2 weeks removed from this, right? Yeah.
Well, it wasn't 3 days ago. It was like 10 days ago.
Okay. So I guess my point is, now that enough time has gone down and under what I'll say water under the bridge to a certain level, and the GoFundMe's out of the hospital and all this, is that I don't think anybody is even the father, and I don't know if Raja's made a statement, but nobody is saying, hey man, what Raja did, he was completely justified. And nobody's at least saying all that. Why in the world are we still sitting here today and Rampage wanting to be the best father and say, hey son, here's what we're going to do. And I'm sure they can make a connection. I think you and Stu need to sit down, at least try to have a conversation and talk this out and just say, hey man, I'm sorry. Legitimately, like us, everyone just continue to comment and threats and this and that. And I'm not just saying, quote unquote, put it to bed, but if anybody's going to kind of grow through this situation, I just kind of think it needs to be, it's between them two. Everybody else is news and chatter and all that kind of stuff. And to get biblical, hey man, judge and you will be judged. So there's so much judging going on. That's what hit me immediately, Conrad, as you read that entire statement. I mean, you can almost pull it back up and I can kind of tell you the bullet points, low IQ, this, that, like Rampage is throwing some comments around that are very judgmental. That I get it. He's within his rope, this and that. But man, there is no healing here. There's no solution here. There's no solving anything. What happened to the world that Raja and Stu can at least have a phone call and say, hey man.
Well, let's talk about that. I don't know, that they can even have a phone call. I'm not saying that to be funny, but logistically, can Stu communicate if he's got 2 broken jaws and broken teeth?
That's what I don't know.
I don't know if he can even communicate. And secondly, doing any sort of contact right now would probably be against every rational lawyer's advice.
But my point being, do they want to litigate all this?
I think everybody wants to leave their options open. I don't know that, but I feel like a lot of people at this point are wondering, when is the other shoe going to drop? Is someone going to be sued? Is someone going to be arrested? Will charges be pursued? I want to circle back and have one more question about
that. I'll be very clear on this. Either side, if that's what we're thinking here, there's only one people that win there. There ain't lawyers. There ain't no two ways about it.
Respectfully, I don't know how much money there is to go around in this situation. So there'll
At this
yeah,
point,
there'll be a settlement from an insurance company, and that'd be it.
And lawyers going to get that.
Yeah, but 2/3 of it for sure.
Yeah.
I guess what I want to drill down on is, in your opinion, and I know last week, we kind of got sidetracked on this. We're acknowledging that there was at least an empty beer can there that went upside Raj's head. So that does make you believe that there was some alcohol use backstage. Does that give you pause or make you concerned that maybe this is a locker room out of control, or there's no oversight in the promotion or that sort of thing?
Context is king. Because I don't think you can judge any one situation. Like on the surface, oh my God, they're drinking backstage. Well, no, wait a minute. But my experience tells me Tommy Rich, they wouldn't mind me saying this, Robert Fuller. I could give you a list of guys that would never fight and do this and that. But this is where we're not dealing with, obviously, 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000. We're dealing in the age of, as Ian, the boom, part of that, the whole foundation of that boom was, we're in the world of digital and streaming and more to come, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. With that being said, I think there is, you brighten me or smarten me up to kick and this and that. The context of everything is just so out of whack that if a dressing room isn't run much more with the iron fist today than it was 10 or 20 years ago, you're inviting yourself into all kinds of issues because, oh boy, Dutch, his quote was, hell, the marks ain't out in the crowd. The marks are in the dressing room. And I'm saying that with all due respect, that it's like, what are we doing here, guys? Because isn't it true that there were a couple of guys streaming backstage?
I don't know all the details. I mean, I do know that Raja was streaming. JBL is actually 1 degree separated from one of the players in this, and he's trying to line something up. I don't know what to expect, but I'm sure that this story is not going away anytime soon. Just to give you this context too, one of the comments responding to Rampage's post suggested that Raja needed to do time, and Rampage actually agreed with him. So I think Rampage is trying to be as fair and balanced. And there was actually a Hall of Fame wrestler, like one of the biggest names in the history of wrestling, that called me last week during lunch. I'll tell you who in the comments. I'm sure he didn't want us to say his name, but he had seen our conversation and he felt strongly about, maybe there were instigators there. So we'll see. I do find it interesting that as of yet, no charges have been filed as far as I know. Like there's been no arrests made, and we're like 10 days removed from this. So we'll see what happens, but I know everybody was talking about it last week. That's why we want to highlight the YouTube comment of the week. Of course, we know a lot of our listeners and viewers had something to say, and here's one YouTube comment that stood out to us. Dark Dragon Soul 99 says there's personal responsibility for everyone. Every action has the consequences, and the last link of the chain isn't the only asshole in it. Everyone's actions matter, not simply the end result. You don't simply convict the hitman. You also convict the guy who hired him, the bodyguard that took a bribe not to stop it, and the guy that sold him the plans to the house. How about that, Jeff? What do you think of that YouTube comment of the week here on My World?
Oh man, consequences. I learned the updated definition of that word about 8 years ago, and that is the reality. But we're all individually responsible solely for our actions, solely for our words, solely for everything that goes with that. That we are. Oh man, we're responsible. I mean, Raja is responsible. Stu's responsible. There is all kind of accountability to go around in this entire situation. That's why, I don't know, Conrad. It is what it is. But if the parties, Yeah, you're saying the litigators that are taking precedence, and so I don't think there's in the foreseeable future then a positive outcome if that's where it's at. And look, I'm not saying I know or you know if that's the reality, but plenty of responsibility to go around.
Well, we've got a responsibility to let you know that Blue Chew is the real deal. Jeff and I are big fans of Blue Chew, and that's why these days Jeff is entering the room dick first. Blue Chew is not just a tablet, it's a cheat code for your crotch. Stronger, harder, longer lasting. Like somebody gave your downstairs a pep talk and a gym membership. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. I popped a Blue Chew, and now the TSA agents call me sir before every pat down. Guys, we're not just talking about performance. We're talking about your legacy or your third legacy. Give her group chat something to talk about. Nothing makes you more of a legend than a little Blue Chew. Go discover your options right now at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. As always, get your first month of Blue Chew free. Just use promo code MyWorld at checkout and pay $5 for shipping. That's it. Join Blue Chew's mission to upgrade humanity one thrust at a time. Head on over to bluechew.com for all the details and important safety information. And big thanks to Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. So Jeff, we definitely want to talk about some other news and notes, but one of the things I've been excited to talk about for a bit with you, a bit of an evergreen situation, if you will, is something that happened with John Cena over the weekend. I don't know if you saw this, but he had a big showing at the Clash in Paris. He was victorious over Logan Paul. And he had a quote that said, "Everyone knows I don't pick my opponents. I'm at my best when it's the open challenge. Like, wow, this is the revitalization of John Cena. I always want to be a platform for people to give their best." And John Cena says he does not have enough dates left to face everyone who is influential in his career, which is why he is using some of their special moves in his matches. Of course, a lot of people noticed that we saw a Styles Clash and an End of Days and some other moves that he sort of tipped the cap and paid homage. Back in the day, is that sort of thing something that the boys would have to run past somebody before they did it in the ring? Like, would they run it past the booker or promoter? Would they ask the other wrestler? Or is this not move stealing? This is a tribute. So maybe you don't ask the guy, you ask the promoter. What was protocol for something like this?
I mean, to me, I don't think there's, oh boy, Conrad, because I think so much can be made about this. And what I think the general misunderstanding of it all, it is on a situational basis that if you take, and I'm just using an opening match guy used the Styles Clash versus John Cena using the Styles Clash, we're not even talking about the same set of circumstances. And it kind of goes all the way back. It's your stature, it's your position in the business, and that's where I think you can get really sideways. That if we'll call it a guy who's working their way up the card might use another guy's finisher can be looked at a little different, as opposed to if you've got equity and you've got longevity and you've been in the business and kind of built your stature and trust within the community on certain levels. Like, I don't think there's a finish out there that John can't or shouldn't or wouldn't use, because at the end of the day, it's John doing it.
Yeah.
It established it's I mean, not to completely compare it to the music business, but when a Paul McCartney does a cover of a hit song, that's Paul McCartney or whatever legendary artist. It's more or less the same in that it's stature in the business. And I think that, oh my God, they use the DDT as a high spot. Well, that's kind of the evolution of the business too, in that, a cutter, whether in just the transitions of how it's gone, the RKO, and there's different things. And there's, look, the pile driver. You can kind of look at different set of circumstances of guys who got it over, who tried to get it over and didn't get it over. I just think it's all on a real situational basis as well as who's doing what.
Let's talk a little bit about, if you were going to do sort of a farewell tour, like John Cena was going to do a farewell tour. And for whatever reason, you found yourself in a similar circumstance where, man, I had like a bucket list of guys I would have loved to have hooked up with one more time as a way to say thank you for all the magic and memories we created together. But I won't have the dates in order to do that. So I'm going to pull off some of their moves to pay tribute to our feud together and pay homage to my friends. And we asked you to list 5 moves that you might borrow if you were in John Cena's shoes. And you listed number 5 as Jerry Lawler's pile driver. How does Jerry Lawler and the pile driver come in at number 5 for you? What about that is so special and magical to you, Jeff?
Well, to me, I grew up watching Lawler, and at the end of the day, you know, before he became my dad's business partner, he was, a hero. I was sitting on my couch when I watched him slap Kaufman on the David Letterman show. And, at the end of the day, Lawler, and this goes way back, pull the strap down, but, the pile driver being outlawed or, you can't illegal, but man, it was game, set, match when Lawler hit it, and Lawler, the executing kind of like an Orndorff for Lawler when they were in their prime, jack a guy up, and it was a quick sit out with some, it was just not kind of, and look, as Lawler got older and depending upon opponents, but you kind of go back and look at certain Dundee when he would pile drive Dundee or the Kaufmans were great. And then he went to the hospital and all that. So Lawler's execution, but timing more than anything. He had great timing with the actual move as well as where to place it in the match. So Lawler's pile driver to me, and that's kind of an emotional attachment as my childhood and the memories obviously grow and grow and grow through the years. It was always really special.
We know that these days it is special if someone breaks out a pile driver, especially in WWE, because we know it's been a banned move forever and ever. But way back when, did you always perceive it as being a finisher just because of Jerry Lawler? Or when you saw other wrestlers use it and it wasn't really a finisher? I'm just curious how that sort of evolved, because I do think it's interesting that now it's enjoying a resurgence. There was once upon a time where you see pile drivers in every match, and now just a regular pile driver. Now they're doing stretcher jobs with it in WWE. So the way people feel about that move has certainly changed, right?
Well, and to me, I always look at it, and this is, I said this Sunday over at AML, and I mean this, and I've said it on here, Conrad. I love this business, but I never ever want to lose sight, and I don't think I really have. I was a wrestling fan long before I put on the tights. That I loved it. I got 5, there's 5 of us, 4 siblings. I'm the only one that really was bit by the bug and loves it to this day. So when I look at it through the lens, and I can remember, I'll call it half smart to the business. Dundee do a pile driver, the Fabulous Ones maybe do a pile driver. In my mind, this is how I calculated it. That's why I never really got, TNA people would come to me and, hey man, I'll talk to you real quick. So-and-so and so-and-so, they kind of did this move. It's kind of this guy's finish or whatever like that. And I'm like, I at times I would maybe have a little sidebar, like just shut up, but I would be diplomatic. Okay. Thanks for telling me. The reality is, in my mind, this is how I think a lot of the fans go. Hey, Dundee can throw a pile driver. Steve Kern can throw a pile driver. Dutch Mantel, but it ain't Lawler's. There's only one Lawler pile driver. It's almost like a Nolan Ryan fastball. Everybody can throw in their 90s, but Nolan, his fastball hits different. But I mean, that was to me that there's only one guy who can put a guy out with a pile driver. And in my mind, it was Lawler.
When you were working with Lawler in Memphis, I'm talking early days of Jeff, and in those days, or did you wait and debut what we've sort of nicknamed here on the show, the Venetian blind gear? Did you have that in the WWF, or were you using that in Memphis before you went up?
I used it for about, gosh, I'm probably getting it wrong, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year before I went to WWF. Not long.
I guess I'm asking, did you ever drop one of those straps before a pile driver as a tip of the cap to those Memphis fans who knew about Lawler's deal?
I want to say the first time I ever did it was against him, and he told me to do it.
To drop the strap.
Yes.
And just that got a big reaction.
Huge. But he knew how to place it because,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, he had to have dropped his, and he bounced me around and all that. I think he maybe would have been in the 60-minute through. It was one of those, and then we got over it, and he pounded me anyway. And he's like, "All right, man, I'm going to walk away. Take those straps off." Okay.
As a young buck, you're in here with your wrestling idol, and you're getting to do his move, and now you get to do the signature call beforehand, like the signal to the fans, and you hear the crowd come with that noise. That's got to be something burned in the memory of your mind.
It's the art to me. Those moments will always be the art of the business. Like there is an art to everything, and I know people just kind of gloss over it today. I had a conversation, gosh, not long ago, Connie, doing cardio next to a guy. I'm talking like this, and they were just kind of talking about, and I gave him an example of the Sportatorium because he was asking about, okay, I'll get into this. The production value of professional wrestling now gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But he said the emotion, he said, I can remember as a kid when I would hear Eye of the Tiger, because there was a time that Lawler came out to that, different music cues. You know, when you see, let me think. Look, when Flair's opponents would go to the ring, or even if it's Cena's opponent, go to the ring, and you transition out of the opponent's music, and then you have 5 seconds go by, and then 10 seconds go by, and then 15 seconds go by. The whole world knows the first 7 bars of identifiable music. Here it comes. But if you kind of build that anticipation, then man, that's a story in and of itself. And so that's where, having the brilliance of a guy like Lawler and others, that where to place things, because silence is so valuable, positioned in the right places. And a lot of times people just completely overlook it this day and age, but the timing of that. And so, on those kind of moments when he's like, all right, drop the straps, he knew exactly where to put it. But that is to me, that's the art. That is why I believe, or one of the reasons, not the only reason, but I think that's one of the things that people, I'll call it the non-wrestling fan, don't really understand. Like when you go to it, and if you're dropped off, if you lived in Mars and you dropped in, and you're going to go to whatever, All In, and you hear a certain theme music played, you go, just the emotion that's created just with some music.
Number 4 on your list of Jeff's top 5 finishers he might use to pay homage to former names or influences in his wrestling career. I'm shocked by this one. Steve Austin's Stone Cold Stunner makes the list.
Well, so I when I was asked earlier this week, it really wasn't that I would ever use them. I would never, I'm the shits at doing a pile driver, and the more I have coming up in there, I looked at what do I think were the most, these in my mind are the top 5 finishers that meant the most, that to this day, obviously people age out, but I just think they no matter who does, and I know pile drivers and somebody's going to come along, but in my mind, nobody, like 100 wrestlers could do a pile driver, but there's only one Lawler. All kind of guys can do stunners. There's only one Stone Cold. And it's because when those anticipation moments would build, and he'd finally get Vince, or he'd finally get Rock, or whoever it may be. Like the whole world, that meme that goes around, or that little clip goes around when I'm strutting across the ring and he spins me around and gives me the stunner and then struts. When people saw him, like music hit, they didn't have to think at all, oh, Steve's going to come down and probably going to punch and Jeff will roll it. No, they knew exactly we're about to see Jeff get stunned. That's when a finisher's over.
We've got to do number 3. This is going to be no surprise. You know, we all know how fond you are of AJ Styles. And of course, you're going to pick the Styles Clash, synonymous with the early days of TNA. And we even saw John Cena dust this one off against Logan Paul. Why does the Styles Clash make the list of your top 5 finishers, Jeff?
I just think it's very hard this day and age. And I'm going back 20 years to come up with something new that has, I'll call it, a lot of variables that you do. And you know, you think about AJ sticking the guy, you can opt out there. AJ can get the guy up. He can slide down going into ankle submission or leg submissions. There's all kind of backdrop out of it. There's all kind of variations that you get into it. But when AJ hits it, you know that's why, you know, I'm in a lot of ways, I'm proud papa. So proud of AJ because, man, he came up with that, thought it through, protected it in the early days, and we all did. That was his finish. Nobody else would even come close to touching it. And it to me, the kind of the building blocks of 02 to, you know, 7-8 years of TNA, that to me is where the foundation of the Style Clash was built. And then to kind of see it come to fruition in Japan, independent scene, and then you know, WWE, when AJ walked through the curtain on his debut WWE in Orlando, the world knew what his finish was. You didn't have to go establish that. And so that's where I just think his finish is really cool.
Let's do another one. When we think about all-time great finishers, you have coming in at number 2, Jake Roberts and the DDT. Man, once upon a time, I think you used to say, what does it stand for? It stands for the end. And for Jake Roberts, man, that DDT, that was it every time. Why does it make your list?
To me, and the old words, often imitated but never duplicated. Can you think of a move that, and I know Jake's 6'4", there's a lot of things that go with Jake and his DDT, but I believe that his execution of his move, and it rightly so, but because a lot of people hit DDTs and variations of DDTs, but Jake hits Jake's DDT so special, and I think that's why. Yes, they protected it. I mean, they really protected it in the 80s. And excuse me, protected it in WWF, and then on into actually WCW. But the formation of that and Watts and just as how he built it, Jake got his move over, and just I don't think there's really a talent that doesn't know. I'd be surprised. That's a good question. Hey, where'd the DDT come from? I think everyone knows that's Jake's original move.
I'm really surprised to hear what you have as number 1 on Double J, Jeff Jarrett's top 5 finishers. Number 1 is Hangman Adam Page and the Buckshot Lariat. I'm not criticizing the pick. I mean, fans go bananas for this. What do you think it is about that combination that resonates so well with fans or even yourself? Why do you like the Buckshot Lariat as your number 1 top 5 finisher?
So I'm going to kind of go back to the setup. Like, imagine Jake as and he can have a numerous setup moves, but when Jake would pick a guy up and stick him, you kind of knew, here we go. Same with AJ. When AJ would stick him, there's some anticipation there. Lawler, yes. What was my 4th one? Anyway.
You had the pile driver, the stunner, the Styles Clash, the DDT, and the Buckshot Lariat.
The stunner kicking the gut. You know, that's the kind of setup. I think in my mind that when I kind of look, I had fun, you know, coming up with the top 5, but when I sat back and really looked at, okay, the Buckshot Lariat, that's just a stiff-ass clothesline. Our man JBL can throw a stiff-ass clothesline. Stan Hansen can throw a hell of a stuff. I mean, there's a lot of guys through the years that it's a clothesline. But I think Hanger's ability and how he has built that, there's 1,000 ways to set it up. It's literally the guy taking a bump in the ring, and Adam could go to any 4 ropes outside and set it up. And you can have managers, you can have opponents, there is so many variations. But I'm going to go back to the anticipation and the build. You can build it in All In London when he stepped outside and kind of did his shake and got the people rumbling. Again, the people stood up. They knew they were about to see it. So I think the setup is equally as, or maybe more important, or just as important. It's definitely important. And the variations to do false finishes out of it, I think, gives so much value to it. So just the fact that he, gives space and distance and setup and all that, Conrad, I just think it's very, very trademark, and he's done the work to get it over. And I just think in 2025, can you name a finisher that's more over?
That's interesting. We want to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
What would you put as the most over finisher today, and why? Drop a comment below here on YouTube, and we'll take a look at those next week. The honorable mention for you, Jeff, which I thought was interesting, is the Fritz Von Erich Iron Claw. And this is one that, well, I've had a lot of fun with busting our mutual friend Pondwater Dave's balls about. He is a huge Von Erich mark. He loves the claw. I'm surprised. Maybe I shouldn't be. I know you love nostalgia and you have history in Dallas and you were in the Sportatorium. Why does the claw make the list for you, Jeff?
So when I sat back and really tried to drill down, Conrad, I'm so freaking pissed if my internet's messed up. So I apologize, folks out there, but I got 5 bars and I'm looking at it. So it's for another argument. But anyway, Conrad, I looked at the finishers and looked at, and you guys didn't ask me, but I said, all right, let me think of one in the 70s, then 80s, then 90s, then 2000s, then in kind of in the 2010. I don't think this decade's over, so 2020, but Hanger started this 6-7 years ago, and he's really developed it. But when I thought through the 70s, it popped in my brain, hell, a damn movie's named after this. But I'm going to give it much more validation in that Fritz and his look and his demeanor and his character and his persona, and if you get a chance, folks, just to kind of watch some clips, and I don't know, and Pondwater, I'm not sure what his real thoughts are, but I don't want to call it the simplicity of it. I'm just looking at Coach Keith Morrison saying, Connie hates the claw. But man, oh man, it was so over. And I can't really think of a finish that had more impact in multiple generations, because Fritz gives it to his kids, and Kevin and Kerry and Mike and David, those guys. But in Dallas, if Fritz got you in the claw, it's over. I'm sure, I thought through Flair and Dusty and different real super, like the 70s mega stars. And I just was trying to think in all the different territories and eras, and Bruno and Andre, and like the real mega stars of the 70s. And the Conrad, maybe that's a talking point. What other 70s superstars had a finish that was as over as the claw? Do you have a 70s, just 70s only, a favorite?
No, I don't. I mean, not to be funny, but I wasn't watching wrestling in the 70s, so I don't even know.
Yeah.
It was a different style. It was a different era. But when we were talking about current, the most over move currently, we're seeing the same answer over and over from most of our listeners, RKO. And if I would have answered from the 90s, I would have said the Diamond Cutter for sure.
Yep.
But in the modern era, I could still say the RKO. But I think you might be on to something with the Buckshot Lariat. I'll admit I didn't think of that as a big time finish, and I don't know that it would have been on my list. But who's using it in the WWE? Logan Paul, their top guy, their main event. So you've got two of the biggest and brightest stars on each channel using that move. We want to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comments, what is the most over move today? And what would you put in your top 5 finishers of all time? Briefly, I want to talk about some of these moves too. Like, there's lots of people who've done pile drivers. Why do you think some pile drivers stand out more than others? Like, we pretty routinely hear about Lawler's or Paul Orndorff's. Most people agree those are two of the absolute best pile drivers. What did they do that everybody else doesn't do? Is it just the use of psychology and what leads up to it, or is it the actual execution of the move, Jeff?
Both, but I'm looking at spinning toe hold. That's a good one. Mandible claw. I thought about that one, but I don't think you can. It's mandible claw as Mankind versus the Sacco gets a little gray. I thought about he's definitely in there, big time, and shout out to all the comments. I love this, but Conrad, a pile driver executed, and I'm just going to say that the sheer execution is there's a little jump, and then there's literally you got to kick your feet out. You can't just kind of fall backwards. I just think that it truly is execution. Same with Jake on the DDT. They execute it so well, and I think that's a massive reason why we're talking about how big they got over. I mean, Steve in his stunner, lots of guys can stun, but Steve, big old Texan, throw the boot in there. But I mean, he'd get into you, and I mean, that's what I'm saying. He's laying right on his ass, but he would jump up. Obviously, guys took it differently, but all in the execution. But it is as equally as where to place it in the match as well. And look, all of them. Let's just be real clear. The promoter has to get behind you, and you got to win with that bad boy. It's that simple. If it don't work, it never gets over. So you have to have at the very top of the list a promotion that gets behind you to get it over.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, take a look at how, the WWE established the Stone Cold Stunner and WCW established the Diamond Cutter. I mean, those became,
yes,
the moves were super over. Like, I would even argue that the Diamond Cutter got over before DDP got over. Like,
so,
with the audience, they were ready for it.
Not today, but there's a unique story on how DDP created the Diamond Cutter.
I do want to take just a minute and ask you, when we're thinking about, again, we kind of asked this about trying to get over on social media earlier, but if you're starting your career in 2025 and not however many years ago it was, and you were going to pick a different finisher, how important would it be that you pick a finisher that you can do out of nowhere, like a Diamond Cutter or a DDT or an RKO? And how important would it be that this is a move that I can use on anyone, whether it's a big guy, it's a smaller guy? Because I do know that there's some moves, like I think about Razor Ramon's Razor's Edge. Man, that'd be tough to do to some bigger guys. And I know he did it to some bigger guys, but even like Lex Luger's Rack, like, man, it looks good on some guys. It doesn't look as good on the big guys. And obviously it's a big visual, but if you were using a best practice, what would be more important, that you can do it to everyone, or the suddenness you can do it out of nowhere?
I mean, at the end of the day, and we, Adam Priest is our buddy, and I think the world of him, but I think more than this, the world of his talent. Folks, if you put him in the music business, he's a bullet with a rocket strapped on him. He is going places in a big kind of way. But to your point, you can't have Adam do the Razor's Edge.
Right.
You have to match your persona and your talent and everything that goes with it. I mean, they came to me in WWE, and but I don't even know who came first, but I'm just, because when I cut my hair and this and that, and look, the figure 4 is what, and that was just, I mean, when I went there, I was a heel. Heels didn't, quote unquote, really have finishers. Like in Tennessee, drop kick was my finish starting out. Hey, I beat many guys on Saturday morning doing a drop kick. And as the finisher world really got going, I was a heel in WWF, so I didn't quote unquote have that. But then there was that kind of transition. Everybody needed a finisher, and so I wanted one that I could do to everybody and do a semi-simple setup and a lot of variations out of it. That's how I, in my mind, the stroke. But I don't think you need to hit it out of nowhere. I think you need to have the ability to execute whatever you're going to do spot on and do it somewhat, no matter if your opponent's 6'8" or 5'8". You got to do it somewhat the exact same way to everyone.
Well, let's talk about doing the same move the same way to everyone. Specifically, I want to spend a little time talking about the Styles Clash. And I know I first saw that on TNA, gosh, over 20 years ago. But about a decade back, it did feel like there were a few people who got injured doing that move. Now, I don't pretend to know anything about wrestling, but I believe one of the first things that guys learn in wrestling, especially when they're falling on their back or they're taking a flat back bump, I feel out of place even using these terms. I think they're supposed to tuck their chin to make sure they don't accidentally hit their head, knock themselves out, and all that sort of jazz. And I think on the Styles Clash, when you're taking that move, it kind of goes the other way where you're not supposed to tuck your chin. Is that the long and short of it? Or how did some of these guys erroneously take? I guess what I'm trying to be clear on is I'm not saying AJ gave it wrong, right? Or what happened with those?
I know we both feel this way. I believe Frankie Kazarian is one of the best in-ring guys to come along. I mean, there really wasn't anything Frankie couldn't do in the ring.
Yeah.
And he's still performing at a high level. But Frankie took a bad one night, and I think it goes back to our instinct is tuck the chin.
Yes.
And I can remember a young Allen, and I don't want to call him AJ these days. He was a young Allen to me. And I mean, hey, you know, he didn't call me sir, but hey, Jeff, look up, look up, look up, look up. I mean, that's it. Adrian Lionheart, God rest his soul, Scottish superstar, who has passed away, but he was one that got his neck broke from it. And it literally is a set of circumstances that finish, you go against what you're taught.
So that's really it. Just it's your natural instincts. You're trained from day one to tuck your chin, and you do it instinctively, and you accidentally get your neck jammed as a result.
Yes.
So just in a loud and clear voice, AJ Styles is not dangerous, and neither is the Styles Clash. The guys accidentally hurt themselves.
Yeah. It's just that simple. Yes. I mean, it is knowing your trade. It's I mean, oh God, I'm gonna go. But anyway, yes, you know, those guys that work on those big ships. I just saw something on X the other day, like dangerous jobs. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing out to sea, you don't get second chances. And what we do, you know, I'm not saying it's not near as dangerous as that, but it can be very dangerous. So you better know what you're doing.
I want to quickly put a button on this segment, but I want to ask if you were trying to figure out what finisher you were going to launch with in your newfound career that you're starting in 2025, not way back when, would you use a submission move? Because I feel like more and more, you know, think about how many wrestlers used a sleeper hold as a finish, or the $1 Million Dream as a finish, or the figure four, or the sharpshooter. It feels like as time has gone on, there's less of that. Do you think that is because of the suspense and the production element of the way wrestling is presented? Or do you still think that a submission is just as viable as a move that leads to a pinfall? I guess I'm trying to figure out, if you had your druthers, would you pick a finish with a pinfall or a submission?
If I'm a young guy,
Yep.
Oh, it is not even remotely close. It's a 1, 2, 3, because that's fan engagement. You can get 1, 2 kick out, and you can do all of that with submissions, but you better have a story. You better have an opponent. You better have, like, when I think of like really over submission moves, and to me, Daniel Bryan was the absolute best at, whether, you know, and I mean, there's so many different variations that Bryan can do, but he would work that in that. But, you know, Kurt's ability on his ankle lock and variations and this and that, all this, but you got to really understand how to tell a story, not only yourself, but your opponent. when you do a pinfall submission, it is much easier to write the narrative and the story and everything that goes with it. And to me, I think well-rounded talents should have both, have a submission finish and a 1, 2, 3. But I'll just say this, and I'll button this: start with your pinfall submission and work into your submission finish, but get the pinfall over first.
Well, we're trying to get over Magic Spoon. If you haven't already, what are you waiting for? By now, you know that Magic Spoon makes high protein, zero sugar cereal and their treats really reinvented from your childhood. You can taste the nostalgia, but Magic Spoon has also launched a brand new high protein granola. And true to the Magic Spoon promise, it's packed with protein and oh so crunchy. Magic Spoon's high protein treats are crispy, crunchy, airy, and an easy way to get 12 grams of protein on the go. They've got a lot of great flavors. My favorite by far is double chocolate, but you should check out the brand new granola as well. Magic Spoon makes sure it packs in 13 grams of protein and zero added sugars with other delicious flavors like peanut butter or honey almond or dark chocolate almond. What are you waiting for? Go get $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com/myworld or look for Magic Spoon on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. That's magicspoon.com/myworld for $5 off. Hey, so Jeff, I don't know if you saw, but this past weekend was a big series of anniversaries. I guess it's sort of our This Week in Wrestling History, if you will. As we're recording this, yesterday was the 7-year anniversary of All In. Isn't that crazy to think about?
Amazing. Yes.
Jeff and I really started working together as a result of me launching StarCast in conjunction with Cody and the Bucks for their first show by the boys for the boys. And that really was the vision. And that plaque right there is actually in bronze on the outside of the Sears Center now. I guess it's called the Now Arena now in Hoffman Estates, but a legendary show that led to almost being like the proof of concept of AEW now. I know the back office was certainly Ring of Honor from a production standpoint, but they had total utilization and it was all about storytelling. Dave Lagana deserves a lot of praise for helping build the story of Nick Aldis and Cody Rhodes. And we saw a surprise with Chris Jericho. And I mean, there was something for everybody. I don't think anybody would have ever imagined it would lead to AEW, or God, it doesn't feel like 7 years ago either, does it?
It blows my mind, but to put it in context, how legit time flies, Connie. I just, from the StarCast to, and it just feels like the rematch of that, which came a couple of months later, that feels like another lifetime. But this night was so special. And look, Lagana had worked with, he came to TNA years ago, and the NWA and the story and, the Bucks, and I'll call it independent wrestling, just kind of where the industry was, New Japan and call back to Ian, I'll call it, oh man, we've gone into this on different meetings in Global Force with Fox and with Kevin Riley and all the different, just the timing of everything and how it, the TNA, for all intents and purposes, when they went off Spike TV, and look, hindsight is 2020, but there was no longer even a distant two in a way. And so there was just the WWE, and just kind of as the time built and built and built and built, and you hear this show and the tweet and, oh, okay. So to really run the back end of this, in my mind, ROH, that's pretty cool. And then Nick calling me, but it was, what a special time for so many people that were completely unaware. My life is about to change, like radically about to change. Those are kind of some feel good moments that you go, how little did we know? Hey, Jeff, what about StarCast? Hey, Conrad, let's put it on Fight. I mean, just all the kind of different conversations we had back there. It's cool. It's hard to believe it's 7 years ago, though.
It's hard to believe that this Thursday, and as a little spoiler, I plan to be live with Eric Bischoff later this week over at 83weeks.com. But 30 years ago this Thursday, Jeff, was the debut episode of Monday Nitro. You want to talk about game changers? I think you could argue that the first week of September might actually be one of the most important weeks in the history of wrestling, not just because of AEW. Well, I guess it wasn't AEW back then, but All In, which led to the creation, I think, proof of concept for AEW. And then someone going head to head with Monday Night Raw, the number one show in wrestling, like that felt like a crazy idea. And here they are, both happening in the first week of September. It's pretty crazy to think that was 30 years ago, isn't it?
Conrad. And so, oh man, I don't know what you're looking for the comment, but during this kind of time frame, July of 95 is when I walked out on Vince. And so, as time goes on. And so what was the date, Conrad, you said? That would be
for Nitro?
Yes.
September 4th, 1995.
That just kind of blows my mind because I left in July and okay, I'm going to have time off. Conrad, that's when I started studying for my contractor's license and pre-kids. My first daughter was born November of 96. And so on Monday nights, we would have dinner over at Mole Man's, and it is just in a way, sitting down on his couch and knowing that we'll call it Turner is launching a rival. And when it debuted and the Lex situation, you just kind of go, oh, wow. Okay. This is about to get fun. There's so many different memories, and that's 30. Jesus, Conrad, 30 years ago. There he is. You're watching on YouTube.
I don't know if you saw, but of course the Lex Luger moment is what we're talking about on YouTube here. The debut on the first Nitro. I guess Eric had like his own Lex Luger moment on the first ever Real American Freestyle. Did you have a chance to catch that over the weekend?
I did not. I worked and family time, and no, I didn't.
Holly Holm over the weekend was a last minute replacement. She's like a multiple time boxing champ, former UFC champ, but never actually competed in a wrestling tournament. Kennedy Blades was pulled by the NCAA and was ineligible to compete. So old Eazy-E scrambled and got a UFC and boxing megastar in there, and she held her own. Ultimately, she lost, but she scored the first points, Jeff. It blew us all away. Kind of shocking. Like, oh my God, Holly Holm is here.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool.
So she doesn't have an amateur wrestling background?
That was her first wrestling match.
Man. Okay.
What a gamer she is, right?
Hey, that at the end of the day, it's in the DNA of some folks and it's not in others. Her DNA is, a challenge. I've never done this. Yeah. So I'm going to start on the biggest stage in the entire, it's crazy. They're good. Good for her.
I think you'll dig it, man. Wyatt Hendrickson's going to be a big star. Can't wait to see what you think. I think Sarah Hildebrandt was the star's name. She just absolutely steamrolled a lady. It's going to be a lot of fun. I thought Chael Sonnen did a fantastic job with Bubba Jenkins on the call. Chael's worth his weight in gold. Tito Ortiz did a run in and announced that Tito and Chael are going to hook up at Real American Freestyle #2.
I heard that.
Hulk Hogan's son, Nick Hogan, is like an on-air commissioner. He's strapping the belts on the champions, sort of Dana White style. The belts look beautiful. Dave Milliken crushed it and did a great job there. And Kurt Angle, I thought, offered a tremendous value. I saw Mark Coleman rolling around. He came and said hello to Kurt while he was doing commentary. It had a cool feel. And to know that Raphael Morphy and Dave Sahadi are there, there's so much pro wrestling DNA in it. I couldn't help but enjoy it and pull for it, man.
I think look, I'm an entrepreneur and you are too at heart. So just the attempt to get it off the ground, but all the, you just kind of look back on the history. Amateur wrestling is really big in a lot of states. And, I can remember when I met Tito for the first time, when I met Chael for the first time, you got an understanding. I played basketball in high school. Well, they wrestled, Chael GFW days. And now on to the ESPN and his personality and his pod and everything. And they're legendary dudes in the MMA world, but for have them kind of not just endorse it. So yeah, hats off. There is something special about God. What's because it's, I don't want to say it's professional wrestling, Professional amateur wrestling. Is that a right word? No, professional.
Well, I mean, I think they're just calling it freestyle wrestling, but you and I would call it shoot wrestling. It's not a work, it's a shoot.
I got you.
Yeah.
That's why I was trying to. I was like, that don't sound right, but yeah, you would call it shoot.
It is weird though, because I think that's a unique challenge, you know. And my heart goes out to Eric Bischoff. Can you imagine how challenging it's been? Because Hulk Hogan was supposed to be there and be a big part of this, and now he's sort of thrust into that spot accidentally. And the idea that he has to deal with launching the first ever event, not just the first event, but like really a new sport. Nobody's seen any of this before. So you're trying to educate an audience and promote. I don't know, man. What a tough deal. I'm proud for him though. I thought they hit a grand slam, and I can't wait to see more. I don't hope to see more issues in Philadelphia. Jeff, you were there last week. We briefly spoke when you were backstage, and I could hear horns honking, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I saw photos of like a giant inflatable rat across the street. I guess there's an area union that has an issue with the owner of the venue. And this feels like an issue, not between AEW and a union, but between that building and the union. What can you tell us, if anything, about last week, Jeff?
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, the horns were going loud. And look, this is a venue union issue. And had AEW not chosen to do, what is it, 6, 7? I think 7.
7 if you count Ring of Honor, yeah.
7 was and you do, because it's a production day, and that's how they look at it. It's all money driven. And so I understand that the union has to make as much noise, and this is one of the strategies they're taking. But my thought always goes back to, look, I damn sure ain't judging, because I don't walk in the venue side or the union shoes. So I don't completely understand it, but is there any upside for all the honkings of the horns? If their goal is to irritate the AEW, folks that are trying to put on a production, okay, mission accomplished. I'm not sure how that sways the venue, other than to me, I know they're thinking, oh, they need to get out of that venue. Well, no. To me, if you're running events and you're dealing with this union, you just kind of want to stay out of Philadelphia. You don't want to go down that road, because I mean, their attempt to interrupt production, I get it. Money's involved, livelihoods are involved. So I don't want to speak for any of them, but I'm not sure their strategy is a productive one.
I got to tell you, what made me laugh is, I guess one of the strategies that the protesters took up is they were going to blast music at the fans standing in line to get into the building. And one of the songs happened to be Metallica's Enter Sandman outside of the ECW arena. And allegedly, as the papers, they're interviewing somebody, a guy named Chris Wienerman. I'm sure it's Wienerman, but for the purposes of my story, it's Chris Wienerman. He's a 37-year-old HVAC tech from New Jersey. He yelled, "Tell them to turn it up. We love that song." I love wrestling fans, and I love helping wrestling fans save money, which is why I was so happy to hook my man Justin up in Knoxville. He's an auto sales manager in Tennessee, and he came to us looking to do a little home remodeling and pay off some debt. We showed him how to use the equity in his home to turn his house into his dream home with no money out of pocket. We even knocked out all of his credit card debt, even let him skip his next 2 house payments. By consolidating everything into one monthly payment, he got to skip his next 2 payments. You could do that too. You wouldn't have to make a payment in October or November. You'd be done until December. And after those 2 months of monthly savings, Justin reduced his monthly payments by over $1,000 a month. Yeah, to be clear, Justin didn't save $1,000 one time. He saved $1,000 this month, next month, the month after that. He gave himself a $12,000 year net pay raise, and you can do that too. Keep more of your own money and go right now to SaveWithConrad.com. Let my team run the numbers for you. Tell us what you'd like to do. Are you looking for a new kitchen? Do you want a man cave? You looking for a home theater? Wouldn't it be nice to have a pool by next summer? You can do all of that at SaveWithConrad.com. And as always, there's no cost or obligation. And if we can't help you save money, we won't waste your time. Find out how much money you can save right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com. And I want to mention you get a year 3 guarantee with us too. If interest rates change over the next few years and your needs change for any reason, you can take advantage of those lower rates if and when they drop them without having to pay a whole nother set of lender fees. It's going to give you the best peace of mind to know you're saving as much money as you can for your family right now, but you're not wasting money later. We're talking SaveWithConrad.com, NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender, SaveWithConrad.com. Efren is with us here live, and he says, falling is basic. You got to know how to fall. If you don't know how to fall, you're going to get hurt. And if you're hurt, you can't wrestle. If you can't wrestle, you don't eat. It's that simple. Wise words from Mr. Vern Gagne there that Efren's sharing, is it not?
I love you, Efren. You are spot on. I can't believe you quoted Vern Gagne on a My World recording day, but I like the first line. Falling is basic. Is it?
Instagram a wrestling historian says, Jeff, did you ever work yourself into a shoot, brother?
Brother. Conrad?
The answer is yes.
That's what I was going to say is, who hasn't? I mean, yes, that is, that is a.
Do you have a character name for that? Does Karen have a character name? Like when you go over the top, like Sylvester Stallone, and you turn that baseball hat around. I saw you do it a few times on the build to Ric Flair's last match. Jeremy Borash told me about it when you guys filmed those standalone shots in your hotel room down in Florida. He's like, dude, he gets a look in his eye. And I mean, we've seen it. Karen knows what I'm talking about. Do you or her have a character name for that? Like you flip the switch and now here comes blah, 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 or, oh, it's so-and-so time. Does that have a name?
Man, you ought to ask Karen that one day, or that's a Conrad, you're grinning just saying that.
Cause I heard it on the phone last week and I just get quiet and I'm like, it's like a tornado in the South. Hey man, just hunker down and hang on and we'll survive, but we got to get there.
This is how I shouldn't really share this, but I'm being really transparent. I was upset at myself that night because I don't like to, my volume goes up, not to a 3 or 4 to 8 or 9, you heard it. And I just like, what am I doing? What am I doing? But I think more than anything,
you care.
You ain't kidding. I care. Yes.
And it annoys you when you feel like other people don't care and you take that personally, to use a Michael Jordan phrase.
Personally, I do.
And so it comes out, and I know it comes from a place of, hey, he really cares. He's not trying to just torch the earth right now. He really cares. We just got to get him there.
Oh,
every now and again on a call, I just want to yell, he don't know no better. Let's just be quiet. And in 10 minutes, it'll get better.
Oh my gosh.
This was a fun show. We greatly appreciate you guys hanging out with us. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications bell. We got more notes that we didn't even get to today. We can't wait to talk about them with you next week. And things are going to be fun. Buckle up. We're going to have a lot of fun right here on My World.
Peace.